Incoming is the much touted, much hyped up one-shot from Marvel that released this Christmas Day. A giant of a comic that united a small army of writers and artists to put together, but is it any good and what does it mean? Well, let's hop on in together and find out, shall we? Alrighty then, so as the comic opens up, we are reintroduced to the Masked Raider, and I really want to call him the Masked Rider every time I start saying his name. This character got introduced near the tail end of Marvel issue number 1000, and then they just kind of did nothing with him. What we know for certain about this guy, though, is that his mask was a gift from a fun and quirky 60s character named Blind Justice. It also just so happens to be a piece of eternity itself. Basically, this guy is wearing God on his face at all times, and it gives him a great many powers, like being able to be an even match for anyone he's fighting, getting visions of the future, even being able to occasionally see through other people's eyes. Like I said, Masked Raider has many powers, and those powers have led him to a rather strange murder scene. A guy lays dead in an apartment that was completely sealed up with no way to get in or out. Raider figures, meh, I don't want to really deal with this problem right now, doesn't really seem to be up to my pay grade, but hey, Elektra and Daredevil are training on another rooftop, maybe they want to deal with this. Boy, says Matt Murdock, this is a pretty crazy case, but I really don't want to deal with this one right now, mainly because I'm not a superhero at the moment. If you've been reading my book, which you should, it's really good. Maybe I should pass the torch once again, this time to Jessica Jones. She solves mysteries for a living. And yeah, if you couldn't tell, this whole murder mystery basically just exists so we can take a walking tour of the Marvel Universe right now, see where all the heroes are at and where they could potentially be going in 2020. Jessica Jones finds a mysterious message scrawled on the back of a photo at the crime scene, one that just so happens to bear the same Hala inscription belonging to the Kree. Jessica figures this must be some sort of threat directed at her friend Captain Marvel, and as such, Jess tracks down Carol. Hey, these two used to be really good friends and hung out a bunch, but they don't anymore. They catch up for a bit. Jess says, hey, you know, Captain Marvel, you've been having a real roller coaster of a time ever since Civil War II, haven't you? A lot of people are hating you right now. That's gotta be pretty stressful, like so stressful you might get a cool costume and become a villain or something. Captain Marvel agrees to take the case, but she can't decipher the strange string of numbers, so she brings it up to the Avengers, who can't help her at the moment because they're dealing with their own problems, mainly Atlantis threatening war on the surface world again, Mephisto, the Squadron Supreme, a new star brand, take your pick. Seeing as this is really more of a science-y problem, Carol instead decides to take the numbers to Dr. Bashir, aka Blue Marvel, who, as we discover, has started a whole brand new brain trust filled with super people. In fact, he's calling it a new version of the Scientists Guild, or X3, which, funny enough, Blind Justice was actually a member of the original team. They say they're taking a different, more intellectual approach to crime fighting. They want to, do big sweeping works like the Illuminati, but without being in the shadows and without, maybe being so sinister. They say the numbers are definitely some sort of message, but one they can't read. They need to keep kicking this up the chain of command, and we need to keep seeing more different side stories. Like with Wu, who just so happened to earlier this year found the new Agents of Atlas as a team for superpowered Asian individuals, a team that isn't doing so good right now, mainly because founding members keep leaving left, right, and center, like Shang-Chi, who's going to work with the agents of Wakanda on the whole Atlantis threat, but also because he's super popular now because he has a movie coming out and he doesn't need to hang out with these guys anymore. Then you got Amadeus Cho, who's turned 18 and has now gone back to hang out with his original team, the Champions, who may have lost their book this year, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be important in 2020. They start planting seeds of a brand new charismatic politician who just so happens to be running on an anti-young superhero ticket, saying that it's too dangerous and these kids can't be trusted and those kids should be in school and as adults we should be protecting the children, yada yada yada. That's going to be Champion Outlaws. Look for that next year. Honestly, it could go either way. I'm happy the Champions aren't going away and are going to get a prominent story, but I don't love all the invoking of Civil War they're doing around this new outlawed storyline. But that's street level. What's happening in the world of magic? Well, Ghost Rider is still the king of hell, and he has unfinished business with Mephisto, who is still currently locked up in his Vegas prison. Want to know more about Ghost Rider? Check out that Ed Brisson miniseries that was going on. Then, of course, you got Null, the god of the symbiotes, who is on his way to Earth to bring death and destruction following the end of Absolute Carnage. Want to know more about this? Go check out Venom, which also came out on Christmas Day. More on the young hero front, we get to see Peter Parker Parker Spider-Man team up with Miles Morales Spider-Man to stop a bridge disaster. Pete serves as a sympathetic ear for everything that's going on with Miles and the Champions, saying, yeah, you know, back when I was your age, there was this guy named Jameson who tried to mess with me, saying I was too young to be a hero too, and I didn't listen to him, and in fact, we're actually kind of buddies now. And hey, continuing on with the theme of young heroes too, we get a mini-story involving young Avengers members Wiccan and Hulkling. Hulkling, it seems, is harboring a new dark secret that threatens to tear apart their happy relationship, and goddamn, you know, I always think it's lazy writing when they do that. Hey, here's a couple that's very much in love. How do we build drama? I don't know, break them up, I guess. Also, you're gonna break up one of the only truly prominent gay relationships in all of comics. I mean, that sucks, but it also means you're writing about these two characters again. So, I guess you gotta take the bitter with the sweet on this one. Now hey, what about the X-Men? They're still like the biggest thing in Marvel at the moment. Well, we check on in with Mr. Sinister, who has teamed up with Mojo to bring unlimited cable channels to Krakoa. Which he's really only doing because Sinister is bored out of his mind right now, not being a traditional supervillain and going along with Xavier's Krakoan dream, but still he has plans and aspirations that seem to involve Franklin Richards, mutant godchild as well as member of the extended Fantastic Four family. Of course, his godlike powers have been unreliable as of recently, but if you want to know more about what's going on here, get ready for that Chip Zdarsky Fantastic Four X-Men crossover mini coming soon. Now, all throughout Incoming, there's been a bit of a B-plot that no one can seem to reach Tony Stark, even though he might be the perfect person to help unravel this alien message. Well, Blue Marvel does manage to track down Iron Man, but it's not Tony in the armor, it's his brother Arno. Arno says that Tony is dead and that he's taking the Iron Man name into some bold, interesting directions. Get ready for Iron Man 2020, also coming soon. Man, I'm like 2 issues behind on Iron Man and it feels like I missed a lot. From there, Mr. Fantastic does what they all probably should have done from the get-go, and that is take the dead guy from the beginning of the comic for an autopsy. And hey, Jane Foster, the former Thor and current Valkyrie, just so happens to be a mortician's assistant now, so she helps out. Turns out the dead guy isn't actually a dead guy at all, but a dead Kree, but not just any dead Kree, someone that Mr. Fantastic actually knows. His name was Beldan, and in a previous adventure, the Fantastic Four had actually tricked him into working with his sworn enemy, a Skrull fighter by the name of Raxor. The heroes think this is a pretty open and shut case. Raxor clearly came to Earth, hid in Beldan's apartment, and then killed him in retaliation. Oh, Raxor is indeed on Earth. In fact, he was masquerading as the dead man when our heroes come upon him trying to flee back into space, but he says he didn't actually kill Beldan. He says they were working together. Turns out they were attempting to mend fences between the Kree and Skrull Empire, trying to bring everyone into a new age of understanding, but Beldan got murdered and left behind a strange message warning about trees, and then Raxor explodes and becomes a tree himself. I gotta admit, that is a twist I did not see coming. Does the Lorax exist in the Marvel Universe? You might need to get him to speak for the trees on this one. And while we're on the subject of the Kree and the Skrull, that's actually where the comic comes to a close. You see, Hulkling has returned to space, where Kl'rt, aka the Super Skrull, has given him the Star Sword, a relic from the 2015 New Avengers that just so happened to have been owned by a Kree-Skrull hybrid, and indeed, hybridization is what they're doing here. Hulkling just became the new emperor of the Skrull Empire, and his first order of business is bringing together the two warring races of Kree and Skrull. After all, they've been devastated by so much fighting and other events, they've pretty much been living on the run, but together they can become a true alliance, a universal superpower that will take the universe by storm. And hey, if you want to know more about this, read that new Empire event, also coming soon in 2020. And so that was Incoming issue number 1, everybody, and it was honestly a lot to take in. On one hand, it's basically a bit of promotional material trying to get you excited for what new comics you can buy in the coming year. It also functions as a kind of year in review too, reminding you what's happened this year in Marvel Comics and where your favorite heroes are at right now. They've definitely done books like this before, but there's a surprising amount of effort and time that was really put into this one. That's not to say the main storyline of trying to unravel who killed the mystery man and why doesn't get lost in the middle as everything gets a little rambly as they try and work literally everything in, but at the same time it does kind of work as a celebration of just how connected the Marvel Universe is again, how all the heroes know each other, most of them like each other, and isn't that why we read comics? Overall, I'd give this one a 6.5 out of 10. I wouldn't necessarily call this required reading or anything, but you should probably know some of what's going on here as it pertains to your own pull list.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Jewel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cape Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.